one of the most balanced teams to discuss this topic. Apart from the moderator, that's just a mechanic, but any system has a weak link, but we shall survive. This is one of the most controversial things happening right now, aside Mobs Guild elections. But it's it's one of those things. I mean, we've been around courts wondering who's going to win, and today we want to get into the foundation of where this all starts from. It's the reason we want to come here and discuss image rights. It's a very big conversation around personalities, around agencies, around brands. And to navigate that conversation, I would like to first dive into the team of panelists that are going to help us understand this. And of course, I want to start with gentleman. Kindly, you're going to come on and introduce yourself, Mr. Kaja, an associate at KTA. Kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Uncle Mo, and thank you for joining us, all our listeners. And my name is Timothy Kaja. I work with KT Advocates under the Technology, Media, Intellectual Property Department. I'm also a FIFA licensed agent. I also work with quite a number of entities in the sports world, including the Uganda Premier League, KCCA, and FUFA itself on part-time. I'm also a lecturer at Uganda Christian University, Kampala International University, and Chambogo University. It's a pleasure to be here and share with you what we have on image rights.
It's interesting, you know, you're popularly known as a sports lawyer. Have you even kicked a ball in your life?
I tried kicking it didn't go so well. So I tried to do the law side.
Let me do paperwork. Okay. we are happy to have you, Timothy. And the next person I'd like to introduce from one of the top city agencies, Kanda, is also on this panel. Please, Kanda, come in and introduce yourself.
Hi, Kanda Dedi. Unlike the lawyer, my CV is not as long as my arm. So I'm a production manager at Zusta Agency. Worked in agencies for about 6 years. And yeah, I love chess, video games. Like I said, my CV is not very long. So yeah.
You're also a poet. Why don't you always want to say that?
Yes.
You also question your art in poetry.
No, I was writing a lot of angry words. That's why I cannot publish them. I'll just full of anger. So yeah.
It is your childhood. It is your childhood.
No, it is Uganda.
Thank you very much, Kanda. Thank you for being a part of this panel. And then another gentleman I'd like to introduce. I think every time people find you, the only thing that comes to their mind is Swangs Avenue. Swangs Avenue. You have a chance to show people that you do other things, like you mop your house, like talk about other things you do. Ladies and gentlemen, Julius Chaze.
Thank you, Uncle Mo. Well, if you expected the intro to be that long, I think it would be as short as Kanda's. But first, I'm a father and a businessman. I focus on creative businesses. I'm an investor and entrepreneur in creative businesses. One of those entities being Swangs Avenue. Glad to be here.
I wanted to ask, if you were not a multimedia entrepreneur, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? A lot of things. I think I would have, I don't know. Someone has asked me that before. And I think I could have been many, many things. I come from a medical family. Most of my mothers are nurses and all that. My father was a doctor who didn't go to medical school. So I don't know. I could have been anything. I don't know, really. I could have been anything. Like I've done so many things. I've been a dancer. I've written songs. I've performed. I've done things. So clearly, I've cleaned, like you said. So I could be many. I still do many things even up to now. Yeah, like I do what I want to do. If I want something and I'm excited about it, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to try and do it well. So I don't even think I can identify myself with one thing even now.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, we are happy that today we are having a chance to pick from your mind. We are very unlucky you didn't get to start that hospital. It would be a hospital that has vibes. But anyway, we will never know. Now we will never know. It's not too late. And
I've started a church.
You what?
I've started a church. That's not a bad start.
That's a bad start. Is Noella online? Is Noella online now?
Noella will
check
in later.
She'll join in later. Okay. All right, thank you very much. I think we will be happy to dive straight into it. So many people are on this call, and I'm sure so many are from the creative end of things, agency end. I mean, people who have things to talk about image, like, you know, we never knew that people would make money off their images, and here we are. There's been big stories in courts, there have been big stories at agencies, big stories from creatives, big personalities, what we would call celebrities. We've had a number of situations. I know there's a certain socialite, lady socialite, who got a bar into hot soup because her photo featured somewhere in that bar's content. And that brings me to us getting where we should dive in first. At the beginning, start from what are we even trying to talk about in the first place. So I think the best person here should be Ivan. I need to understand what are the different intellectual property rights in the advertising space? Like, what are the things? What's the scope? Because some people may be here and you think it has to first be a gig by a certain brand for me to start saying they should pay me my money, or I should have rights at a certain level. So, I mean, what are the rights anyway?
Uncle, are you directing that to me?
Yes, Ivan, that is yours. That is yours. Sorry,
Timothy. Ivan, I'll take it forward. I'll give it to my first son if I'll get there.
No, Timothy.
But yes. In our advertising space, generally intellectual property is broad, but I don't want us to involve the patents where it's just mechanics like our MC today. Those ones have but in advertisement we look at mainly three. And first is the trademark, which in our language you may call a brand. Like when you see these different trademarks, the Airtel, the MTN, the Coca-Cola, the Pepsi, just the way they color up and italicize, or the font that they use and how they place it, the images that they may put before or at the back of it. In advertising, many of these may come as the sponsors, and then you put them down there. You put this TV, this radio, this brewing company, this telecom company. That simple thing that you see, whether it's a square, whether it's a rectangle, and it has probably wide, it has probably a chimpanzee, it has a toolbox, anything, that is a trademark. That is a trademark. So it's a mark that helps us identify that good or that service in the market where it's playing, whether it's in media, as long as you see that those logos, those colors, you know that it's them. Only that is a trademark. Then what we deal with is the copyright generally, because now copyright is, for example, now those guys are often at the bottom of the billboards, or at least in the corners, but in the center of it all, where we see someone's photo, it could be a drawing, could be a cartoon, could be many faces put together. That's the real center of it all. That one is often a copyright that is either often a design, or someone took a photo and then they added it into a design. That means that there could be different copyright holders in that one poster. And then the last segment, which could be our main course for today, is the image of that personality. When you don't want to put up that billboard or that ad without a face of someone, and think that the face of that individual could add value to what you're communicating. That means that probably if it's gaming or it's sports betting, probably you want a sports personality. If it is achievable at the end of there, probably you want a music personality. If it is, let's say, if it is probably it's a political event or civil society, probably think that some individual, probably someone is putting up the parliamentary exhibition there, probably Dr. Spire here, if I put him there, it will get me the mileage. Or if I get the president's face on this one, it will get me mileage. So that one is the image rights. So we have the trademark, which are the brands that we lit around that poster. We have the copyright, which is the designer and the photographer, or they could be the same person or different ones. And then we have the face of that individual that will give us the mileage in our advertisement. That is the holder of the image rights. So those three are mainly what we play with in the advertisement space.
Thank you very much. And the one you ended with, for me, brings me to one of the biggest culprits with that one, and that is Julius Chaze. You have a property that over time gets people that there's a newspaper says Ababadeo, gets people that were at a certain event to promote the next one. Yeah, and then sometimes some guy who was there in that piece of photography or video you've used, probably now he's an area pastor. Like, life changed. He doesn't go to Vivulu anymore. I want to understand, in your mind as a businessman, where does the responsibility stop? As in, do you extend, like, do you get these images and you extend the rights to the advertisers? I mean, how do you play around the semantics with this?
Okay, so and this cuts across activities for two of our business, for instance, between bars where we manage human interactions at events, but also at Swangs where we shoot commercials. So sometimes you find yourself, there are two scenarios. You find yourself in a place where you're shooting a commercial, but it's a public space. And then in there, so you have your principal actors or cast that you have model release forms for, but then there's a risk that you're going to expose other extras that are not necessarily intended to be a part of your shoot. And we've seen, even us ourselves, we've committed these errors in the past. So because you're shooting on a street, so they are passers-by. Now, for as long as they are recognizable, you've exposed yourself to legal issues, because this guy can wake up one day and he was on a border driving by and he's seen in an ad. So what we do to mitigate that, for instance, is we demarcate these spaces. Like if we shot Mr. Google Sir around Ginger Road. So you demarcate that place, clearly mark it that this place is under filming, it's a production set, and make sure you have evidence of that. You know, that it was clearly marked, it was visible, because it might be unrealistic to make sure that you have a model release form for everyone who might end up in the shot. Some people will just come and try and peep into whatever you're doing. Then if accidentally someone misses to, you know, identify this face in post-production and it ends up in the ad, and these buddies are in a Kafunda telling, man, we saw you in this MTN ad. You know, you are there peeping in a window, we saw you. You must have gotten so much money. And then they start to get ideas. So you find this entire gang and families like, man, those guys have to pay you. Before you know it, you're dealing with a different situation. But so what we do, we demarcate and clearly indicate that this space or this demarcated area is under filming. So if you enter it, then you've allowed to be a part of that. However, we throw so much caution that whoever is involved, especially extras that are contracted to be in an ad, must have model release forms. And now we even extend it to property. Like if it's private property that's going to be seen in a production of an ad, you must get release for that. And these are things people don't take serious sometimes, and then until when issues come up. So this same practice we extend to exactly what you've asked, to events as well. For instance, this Sunday we have Roast and Rhyme at Jahazi. I love these things when you're saying, yeah, Jahazi, this Sunday, Roast and Rhyme. Yes. So, but what we do when you enter this event, you see there's going to be a huge sign that clearly tells you, once you enter this space, you know, we are filming it, there's photography. However, also you cannot abuse that. So we are filming and capturing images for us as Swans to use in promoting this same event, either before, after, or future engagements and all that. However, that right may not extend to third parties. For instance, our partner NBS might not necessarily have the right to use those images. Because when you entered the location, it was a Swangs managed location, it was a Swangs managed notice, whatever it is, it could extend. I mean, there are legal boundaries, and our land friend can advise how far you can extend that. But that's how we go about it. Make sure the shooting spaces are demarcated and clearly marked, and make sure the spaces where you have events, people consent as at ticket buying at the purchasing point. When you're buying a ticket, terms and conditions need to be that. And even our legal partners, Signum, have done an awesome job to even educate not just ourselves, but even our other partners in the business. And I know Katie also are doing a lot of this kind of work. I see workshops on intellectual property. So we're all learning, but those are some of the things we've done to mitigate that.
Thank you for that. I'm still sticking with you, Julius. I want to understand, and I'll give you an example. I had a chance to be in a video of one of the artists at Swangs. To be honest, I didn't sign a release. So I'm really waiting to be more broke than I am, then I'll call you. But I want to understand, in cases where like in the paper that missed. So in cases where such a thing happens, and probably someone's release was not signed, who takes this blame? Then what happens?
That would be very unfortunate, and you can't guarantee that you cover all your loopholes 100%. But you must have systems in place. And I see agencies. That's why agencies always want to also work with, not even just agencies, from advertisers themselves. They want to work with agencies that have structures that safeguard them from some of these things. Then the agencies also extend that to production houses. Like, oh, I want to produce with a production house that has systems that at least reduce my exposure to issues like this. You might not be able to eliminate 100%. And I'll give you an example. We shot an ad, I think, for Airtel in Karamoja about 2-3 years ago. So everything done, model release is signed, everyone is happy, negotiations are done, the talent agency, closed and dusted. So this commercial was shot late into the night, like most commercials. So you wrap up, like at 8 p.m. So everyone is cleared, especially for extras. They're not paid prior. Because they're not paid as much. You're just walking by a shot and all that. So these guys are paid at about 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Ad is done, flighted, commercial goes big, Airtel adopts it, I think, for even other markets. And then one day we are here and then we are served because one of the guys in the ad says he wasn't paid. First, he says he wasn't paid well. We're like, what do you mean you weren't paid well? So we provided, so they escalated it and they opened a case in Karamoja. What's the town? Not Kitgum, sorry. Moroto. So now we are supposed to go and sit in an hearing in Moroto. It was a proper tiring act. It was a clever move by the lawyers that side. So we showed the ad in Moroto. They open a case in Moroto. So imagine having to go to Karamoja and then it's Giant and then you're told to come another day. Like they knew you would not be able to keep up with that. So we produced the forms, the release forms, and this guy was paid. Now, here is where the problem was. We did not know, because the lawyers had a counter to this. The guy was paid at about 7 p.m., 8 p.m. So the lawyer said the laws of Uganda do not validate contracts signed at 6 p.m. I'd not heard of that before. So that meant that every model release form we had signed on that commercial, by the time we wrapped up, could be contested. So you learn these things as you go. You learn as you go and try and close gaps as much as you can. Like another guy called Uncle Mo appeared in another video. I don't know how he appeared there, and now he's hoping he will get paid. But the guy was there and he was posing and he was dancing, and then he says, "How did I end up there?" So you try and close these gaps as they come. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Talking about payment, that brings me to Kanda. Kanda, first of all, you being an agency guy, first of all, why don't you guys want to pay people? 3 questions actually in one. Why don't you want to pay? And even when you pay, why do you pay little money? And Even the little money comes after 6 months. I want to understand, like, let us know this today and we move on once and for all. Like, a person has to first go talk to his relatives, talk to ancestors, start sending fire and praying for you guys. Why?
Kanda, Uncle Mo is asking on his own. I'm not involved in it. Kanda is my employer.
Well, first of all, Uncle Mo's ancestors are not that powerful, it seems. But so usually what I tell people is the way it works is when you sign up, when we sign you on, usually through the model agencies, and we let the model agency know that, you see, a lot of clients have payment cycles, because procurement on the other side, it's not like, because I don't understand, people expect like money is there under the table. You come, you shout, you just remove it. It's not. Believe me, we'll give you because you don't want to making noise. But like payment cycles, the other side can take 3 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes it keeps going like that. And I understand people say, oh, it's a company, but you guys have money, but no, it's not really like that. There's also cash flow issues. You know, you cannot get money that was meant for Uncle Mo and you pay Julius. Because now Julius is going to come, and then now you're going to get money meant for Timothy and give it, you get it. It's going to become a spiral. And of course, you forget Uncle Sam, aka URA. They want their money also immediately. And so it's a whole cycle so that you choose not to pay. You just have to wait for when the payment comes through, and then that's when you now pay the models. And then when it comes to the amount, I'm sure you negotiated, and the amount you negotiated is what you get. I understand sometimes people will say, oh, but I didn't know it was going to be that big. Believe me, even as we didn't know. I'm sure when Julius was shooting Bosco ad, they didn't expect it to be that, explosive and everyone likes it. Sometimes you shoot a big ad, you think, oh, it's going to do this, and like 3 people in Kampala saw it or something like that. So the ad being big or popular does not change the nature of the contract. I understand sometimes it goes big, but yeah, it may sound unfair, of course, to the man, but that is how it works. And the reason contracts are signed is to mitigate such issues. We don't want someone to come and be like, but now you see, even people in the UK know me, which means now they know your brand, which means, again, there's all that. That's why you have to sign a contract first. Of course, there are situations where maybe, like you said, a loophole was missed, especially when it comes to those things of other countries. You shoot the ad in Uganda and you think it's Uganda, then you realize, oh, the company has a parent company that is based in, like, I don't know, Jamaica, and now you're in billboards in Jamaica. You get some loopholes there, of course, happen, but there, of course, you call, you negotiate, and you're like, okay, now you're outside Uganda, but this is a compensation. If you do not want, it's fine, you can take it off. And all the contracts have a period of time where we're allowed to negotiate before Uncle Mo goes to court. Yeah.
There's one part you've not touched, and that is where you have models that are not paid at all. I want to understand, is it?
Oh.
Yeah. There's situations where people are not paid. Is it? Do you decide? Like, why does that happen? Do you decide? Do you want it to be? Is it business in good faith? What am I trying to? I want to understand.
You've come for me today. Okay. So sometimes, sometimes, let's say you shoot an ad, a client commissions this, we do everything, and then some event happens, let's say COVID. Then from there, everything is shut down. The price, so like the budgets of communications has been taken out. What you expected to be compensated, you do not get compensated. Now, the problem comes through because usually now the agency also doesn't get paid. I think you've had, companies are just closed suddenly one day. Like the supermarkets, you just see all of a sudden one day just go. Some companies do that. Now, when that happens, a lot of us are not aware. And then you also wake up, you see the news at the same time as the models that, hey, this company has closed, this telecom is closed, it has gone, they have packed their things. You're going to see that building is just a few monitors that they're selling off, and no one was paid for work previously done. In such situations, now the agency, because they're the ones on the line, the contract with the agency, not with the client. Now you have to find ways of using your own, you have to pay out of pocket now. You have to use your own money to then clear all these guys. And sometimes the money is a lot. So imagine you're going to get billboards all over the country, you've put an AVTV station and all that, you've done all that stuff. With understanding that, yeah, you're going to get paid in 3 months and these guys disappear. So in such a situation, you come back, you make a payment plan, and you're like, okay, we can be able to pay you maybe in some amount of time because of the amount of money, you never really go and pay. It's always about the payment plan. And of course, not everyone is happy with the period of time, but it's because maybe you're not privy to know that your money as a model, though it might not seem a lot to you, but because now we have to also pay TV stations, radio, and all that, and those ones are like very big outstanding. You really have to clear, which is, yeah, so they never really go and pay. It's just a period of time that differs.
Actually, me, I know what the payment is, because like after so much pressure, you'll hear that a certain personality is now blacklisted. That agency will never work with them again. I'll come back to that kind of later.
Okay.
I want to first pick Julius's hand. Yes.
I'll just also building upon what Kanda was saying. It's very unfortunate that we're in a country where small businesses are expected to fund big enterprises. Like, it's a shame. And I hope as the Uganda Advertising Association, we can find ways to either open these conversations, either to find a way where the payment models are more favorable. But some of these agencies are small in terms of the volume of work they have to handle, and then they are only earning a commission of that money. However, they are all meant to find, for the most part, find the money or manage the relationships. So it trickles down. But then as you go down, you find that a lot of these transactions are cash-based, but your clients are paying you 60 days or even more. And the guys at the bottom of the pyramid will not understand that. So which means the agencies consistently have to fund executions by their clients, which also unfortunately agencies also don't do. They pass that burden to production houses. Then production houses, which are even smaller entities, now have to find money to fund the big boy businesses. Now, sometimes you find that even the production houses do not have the money, but because they have the business and the volume, they also threaten the smaller talent talent companies that, oh, by the way, we have so much business. If you don't want to give us models, then maybe we'll go to another guy. So the guy takes the job as well. So you see the trickle-down effect. You go to, by the time you're dealing with the model needs cash. So a guy has a modeling agency, it's a small business, and you're telling the guy will pay you in 60 days. All we're doing is funding for a multinational corporation. I think it's insane. And then these conversations need to be had. And I'm hoping we have some clients here. We need to have those conversations. We cannot have small Ugandan or African little businesses funding multinationals, and because in the name of managing cash flows.
I think that's I didn't even look at it like that. So people are busy funding multinational companies. That's what is actually happening.
Yeah, because we fund the operations, they pay after they consume. And we love the business and we are grateful for that. But then the small businesses are funding most of their expenses, and then they'll pay you whenever they are done consuming. I think there's a conversation that needs to be had. I feel it's unfair. Because otherwise you blackmail that if you don't have the money to bankroll the production or get the models, they'll give it to the next guy. I don't think that's in a good spirit.
That's insane. Let's talk. Talking to Timothy. Let's talk about personal image. There's been some hot discussions. I mean, I know there's a certain news anchor that ended up on a billboard for a certain streaming TV service, and I mean that I think they were pushing the bulletin, so they had to put him there that please tune in on this channel at this time because of this guy. Then the guy is like, but for me, the contract I have is with the station where I work. Yeah, I think there was also a situation. There's so many situations whereby I am on a show, then the show is, I think, maybe sold to a third party, and then the third party now is doing rounds with scenes I was in to promote the show so that people go and watch their streaming service, stuff like that. We had another issue of the rugby, the national rugby team captain who thinks that the rugby union is doing whatever they want, the images of the players. It is a very, it is something, and I think that whole thing is going to start more problem now. I mean, I think it's a problem that just starting. It's going to become even crazier than we are saying it. I want to understand, first of all, what are the best practices when dealing with personal image in advertising? And how can we deal with conversations around third party? I tell you, this guy, I tell me, I only talked to you. Why is my stuff out there?
Yes, thank you. So to understand that, we have to have a little bit, at least as practitioners in the advertising space, have to have a little bit a sharp understanding of what image rights really are. So image rights, they are really, it's a right that comes from our right of privacy, which is simply the right to be let alone. That means I want to be somewhere, it shouldn't be, no one should interrupt my privacy. That is one. But on more on this side of, I also don't want to be publicized. Someone has a right not to be publicized, although some of us may want to become celebrities, but you have a right not to be published anywhere, and you have a right to just be left alone. But because now this is work, advertising is work, there comes a closer right that deserves is the right to work. So someone has a right to work, but often confuse them coming to work as also a handover of their right of privacy. When up here, that is different. If someone is at Swangs or someone or whatever they are working as there, or they have gone out, we should understand that when they're enjoying this, whatever right they're there to enjoy, even if it's freedom of association, probably we are going at Roster and Rhymes, I'm there to associate. I'm not actually signing away my right to remain private and my right not to be made or publicized anywhere or used anywhere. So we need to appreciate that as people are enjoying their many rights under the Constitution, often the right to work and the right to freedom of association, they do not necessarily give away their right to privacy. The right to privacy has even a bigger safeguard in that it left the Constitution under Article 27, and we created a special new regime for it, which we call the Data Protection and Privacy Act, to show us how important that right is and how different it is. So that right tells us that when we are dealing with these, we want to invade someone's privacy, we want to deal with or anything of theirs, of their personality, the language of the law is that something that identifies them or makes them identifiable. So, Uncle Mark, you may see your Uncle Mo, sorry, we may see your image here and identify, but also someone may draw a cartoon and then we can identify you. So you could be identifiable, although not identified. So they tell us that if you're dealing with this, a key qualifier is that one must consent. One must consent. That is very, very key. In that, in whichever we're going to use their image or we're going to violate their privacy, they must consent. Even if we look at it as if someone wants to work, if we're giving him a gig to promote you or giving you some money to survive, they must consent. And that consent is not general. You've heard about, you've taken your image, probably you're dealing with party A, and then you see at party A. You're in country A, then you see it in country B. So when they consent, they must consent in the way that permits us to use their image in the manner that we intend to do. So if you foresee that you're going to probably use this commercial for even a longer period of time, for example, what got FOFA into trouble was actually that even Pauline had just signed with giving away this right to Sachi and Sachi only for a given year. But then that since we have this image, we got it in 2008, we can use it forever. No, if you think that this ad may go viral, I might use it for about 10 years. Put it in those forms that we've had us mention about. That's that we may first of all, we want to take your data, but once we take it, we may retain for about 10 years or 20 or 50 because they want to consent. Then you must make it clear that you may use it with third parties, because like you see, and when the agency may come and then I consent, probably I give it away to Swangs. I haven't given it away to NBS or Airtel. I haven't given it to someone else. I haven't given it to influencers. So we must, if you're to share with third parties, make that clear that once you accept us to take your image, we might use it with third parties. So one, we might use for longer. It's not a one-off. Secondly, you may use it with third parties. And if you can disclose. And if it's a company, whether it's MTN that's coming for it or it's Airtel, tell that we may use it with our people or our social media influencers and everything. Disclose that. And then if you're to use it in a separate jurisdiction, if you foresee that we may use, we're shooting it in Uganda, but we may use it in South Africa, make it clear that actually you may transfer your data outside this. And when we're doing that, we guarantee that where we won't transfer it to a separate country if that country does not have proper data protection and privacy measures. So that country can only have the standards that are equal to those of Uganda or higher. Uganda is challengingly is one of those ones that are doing well on the continent on data protection and privacy. But if there are countries in Europe, you could be rest assured, probably also in the Americas, you may be rest assured that those countries, the Americas, in Europe, they have higher data protection standards, if not the same. But for African countries, you may struggle. So if you foresee that probably, and it depends on who gives you the gig, you may know that MTN is giving me the gig. I know it works in South Africa, it works in Nigeria, but does it work in a country probably, let's say Burundi, that is lower? Then disclose that, including that not that I'm also transferring to Burundi. Clearly, so we don't struggle to say that you're taking it to Burundi, but does Burundi permit us to, or does it have proper data safeguards than Uganda? Or not? So that if Burundi is lower, I consented. So I can also took my image to Burundi. Then the other, you must make sure that you're getting whatever you're buying from the person who holds it. Many of the people in the corporate space, they can sell you something that actually they don't really have. We have many institutions have suffered this. The banks, many banks here, we have many cases of the Skugu Gaetanos, and our courts have pronounced ourselves on this. If you are to get an image from someone, make sure that the person who the back ends with consents to that. So I don't go, especially if you're doing this for the team sports and everything, don't go, and if you're buying probably you're buying Onyango's image, don't buy it from FUFA or the Greens. Please make sure that you're buying it from Onyango. If you're to buy it from a third party, make sure that that third party has the consent of the primary data subject. Don't, because I know it's where the money is. We just follow up. I think I just presume that probably Rugby Union has the rights over this person. Make sure that before the union or an association or even a group, let's say it's Swangs, you may know that because artist X is with Swangs, if I sign with Swangs, artist X has agreed to that. If you deal with Swangs, let Swangs furnish you with proof that that artist is agreeable to your working terms. So if you tick all those boxes and probably adjust our contracts to have at least minimally those, because for data protection and privacy, we only look at the minimum. If at the bare minimum you have that consent from the right person, not from their entity that takes them or their company that they work with, but from the right person, permitting you to use their image for a given period of time that you may foresee, permitting you to transfer it to a third party where you foresee, and also permitting you to transfer it to another jurisdiction if you foresee that there's going to be cross-border transfer. If you have those, minimally you meet. Of course, if you want to add, you can always add the best practices, but at least by that bare minimum, you meet at least the basics that you have to tick, the box that you have to tick in the Ugandan perspective.
That's an interesting angle to think about for personal image. Actually, now this takes me to Julius. So I want to understand, at Rostan, anyway, at Rostan, are we signing over our privacy? We need people to understand what is actually happening when they consent to be in the venue.
So we are expected, even by law, or we've been guided by our legal team, and we've been doing this for years, to make sure that there are disclaimers that you're walking. So I should look at these events as a production set. It's like walking into NBS studios. Cameras are running, they're broadcasting, and then after that, you're going to claim, no, I didn't allow to do this. So I didn't allow to be on TV, but you walked into a production set. So for what we are mandated to do is be clear on that as people buy their tickets, so they don't look like, you sold me a ticket and now I got there and then I don't want to be seen and then now, give me my money. So even from point of sale, there are terms and conditions that once you enter this environment, once you enter this setting, it's filmed, a photographer will be taken. However, you cannot abuse that. And again, there are limitations, like Timothy mentioned. But you cannot abuse it and say, have unlimited use where you extend it and then they wake up one day and one of our clients says Stambik is using those images. So even in our disclaimer, it has to be within what is allowed by the law, that will use these images for clearly for only the purposes of promoting this same event or anything related to this event. So we cannot take it outside of that event and use it now to sell soda or sell banking. And then we're using content. When we took your picture, it was at Rost and Rhyme. But when you see us at Rost and Rhyme, or when you see your image promoting Rost and Rhyme in the future, we believe that should be acceptable within the law. So we've gotten guidance several times, and we've been modifying these notices a couple of times over the years. We went to court actually once before because someone claimed they didn't see the notice. And there was a shortcoming on our end. It wasn't on the ticket. This is many years ago. So this is when we tightened up on issues like this. So now once you get your ticket, the terms and conditions are there. At the point of buying the ticket, you have the terms and conditions. The fine print, basically. When you get to the venue, there's a notice at the gate that you're entering a zone that is photographed, that will have video taken, but that content will be used in promotion activities relating to this event. So we cannot also commercialize your footage and use it now for other things. That's an abuse. You didn't give us a right for that because that's not what we had on the notice. So we must still stay in the confines of what we have on the notice. And that needs also to be within the confines of the law and what's allowed.
Thank you very much. Timothy, if you could come back on this one, I think this is mostly what Julius is talking about. I think it's mostly abused by bars, hangout places. You'll find they're pushing a night and there's a video of people that were there the previous week. So are they stepping in the wrong side of the lane?
Yes, unfortunately, most of the venues that we have and most of the events that we go to are often on the wrong side of the operation and privacy. And but often is what should they have done, or how can they improve our entertainment space or that event sector? Is that at least minimum, because many of these terms to clear them out, you may not have enough space on the ticket that you have. Clear out everything, your transfer, your consent, the purpose of the collection of the data. You might have it, but at least have an attachment to that ticket of yours. So good enough now we're doing e-ticketing, it's growing. That tells us that probably if once you're buying this ticket, it may not even work out for the bars, unfortunately. But if you're buying this ticket, we have terms and conditions of use that probably we adhere to. You may have them on your website, you may have them at your premises. And third, by the person agreeing to walk into that venue or that event, they are agreeable to that. But like we've had, it must only be for that clear purpose. That's what they're consenting to, nothing else. But for the bars, if whatever usage you're going to use, whatever usage you're going to put that image to, especially if it's commercial, if it's of a commercial nature, please make effort even if you took the image published, you marked it very well, there are cameras under inspection, photography, but you're going to now use it for a commercial gain, to advertise. Make effort to go back to that person and get the individual consent within those limits, because it will be hard that someone will come to you, because now there are expectations. Now, we spoke about the right to privacy initially, but also generally the law is also aware that once you go into some spaces, your expectation of privacy lowers. For example, if you're in the road, you cannot expect to be as private as if you're in your bedroom. If you are at probably an event, you're not expected to be as private as you are at home. So you expect that your privacy is limited. But to what extent? It hardly crosses over for further commercial use. So good enough, many of these people that appear in our posters and everything, they're not many. So before you use that, the best practice, make effort to trace back those plans. Say that probably we took a good shot of you of our camera, took a good shot of you. When that you are in a bar, probably you're expecting lesser privacy, but now you want to use it on this poster. Many of them would be interesting, will be happy. And then let them consent to us, probably a consent form, a small consent form release form, indicating that what we are using this data for and whom we use it with. That will be the best practice for us who are in the entertainment space. But merely because someone is at a bar at an event, yes, they expect that their levels of privacy reduce, but they do not consent that it goes as far as you using it in a commercial.
I hear you. And yes?
I'd like to learn from Timothy a little more on that, on how practical this is. So you do an event like Blankets or Roast and Rhyme, and then you have a ton of pictures, and you're going to put these out post-event to try and recap what happened. But in the same breath, you're speaking about the next edition. You're not going to go and get consent of 1,000 people or 500 that you use in the different posts, because where digital has gone now, it doesn't not necessarily, when we talk about posters, maybe a lot of people imagine the official, key visual, but I'm talking about, recap videos. I'm talking about what happened at the event, but then I might throw in a Roast and Rhyme logo on that. So that's why, and I want you to correct me if you think we are going about this the wrong way. That's why we tell you at the entrance, at the point of buying the ticket, that we'll take pictures of everything that's happening at this event. And if you're uncomfortable, please do not enter. But we'll take a picture for the use of recapping this event or communicating the next event or future events of this Roast and Rhyme or Blankets or whatever event that we'll do. I don't think it's very practical to say, okay, at that point, go and find all the people you took pictures of if you're going to use these images. I think that would be nice. Is that practical?
Yes, Julius, to clarify now, I began with the event side, because events are seen as a one-off. They're not recurring events, either annually, biannually, or quarterly. So they're not recurring. For the events, the best practice is, as you do on the ticket, disclose that. But because there may be more detail than what you can print on the ticket to be visibly understood and read and understood, that you may want to have another privacy policy on your website saying that by also concerning this, you agree to our privacy policy accessible here for the events, because it looks as a one-off. But for the bars, for example, I'm just having a drink, so that I'm going to a Roast and Rhyme event. I'm just going to a bar, like a founder here and there. And then, so these are looked at as repetitive, as it's like a repeated practice that probably every weekend you might be able to see this person. So for the bars, or these hangout spots, it's practical that for them, since they don't take thousands of photos in a given day, that for them, and they have recurring customers, for them it's practical to make an extra effort. So that probably Julius comes to my bar list once in the fortnight, or at least even weekly. Then it's practical for them to consent that. But for the event side, the ticket is good enough. The best practice is that even in addition to the ticket, you add the privacy policy accessible. Put a website or even a QR scan code where someone can access that entire policy, which can always keep on updating, because technology has changed and they affect how we perform, like you say. And we have these socials once and again. But for them, the privacy policy will do accessible via that ticket. What you're saying is that the moment you buy this ticket, you enter here, you are consenting to the terms on this ticket and our privacy policy accessible here. Here is the link, or here is the QR code.
Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Timothy. This I think I need this to go to Kanda. You're the production guy. Everyone now has a phone that has a camera. Everyone is making content. Actually, let me leave everyone. You work at an agency where you guys shoot a video every 3 hours. Like you guys have a video about we're taking tea, we're going to the I don't know. You guys should go check. I want to understand, is this in your contract? Are we, how can I explain it? Might there be need for sensitization around personal content? That's one. Two, content made at the office. Like now you leave the job. Do you call those guys and you're like, edit me out? Like where do the rights stop? Because it might be fun and games then, but I'm sure it's not in your contract. These little videos that people keep making at work and what.
So, how do I put it? It's not really a gray area. So, you know, like how they say fine print. So, in a lot of contracts at jobs, there will be, you know, you're going to do your job, and so now that's where all other things fall under. You're taking tea, someone comes, hey, I want to see you eating cassava. And then, of course, it's part of the other jobs have a clause of you're representing the company, like wherever you are, whatever. So which means now your images and all your videos in the office, you're portraying a certain image of how the company is. It's a fun place, it is this. You're not supposed to be annoyed in the video. You get it? Because now if you're annoyed, then people will be like, wow, you shouldn't come there. And then again, that's an issue. So everything falls under fine print. And maybe if, I don't know, the next interview you have, you can go and quarrel about it. But yeah, a lot of these things are standardized. Believe me, if you went to, let's say, Timothy, if you go to quarrel and you get that, you're not going to, these guys can argue for 2 weeks in a row without stopping. So it reaches a point you're like, but you know what, it's fine. It's just me taking tea and it's okay. Yes, and then of course, here and there, there will be like, let's play a character. Maybe if you see a lot of the Zeus videos, I am like the toxic guy, what. I mean, it may or may not be true, but now out there, everyone will be like, so this is a guy who is like this. He's the one who is anything toxic, or he's this, the one. Which for some people, it will bother them. Now, like if Julius was here and was that, then he may have become a pastor, and now the congregation will be like, this guy, the one who was saying what the woman did, what, now he's here preaching to us. Good, so things like that. So, like I said, it's under fine print. So, however, you're free to go and litigate that with HR. Of course, that's passed by admin. Then you have to go to CEO. Then they'll take it to the board. But yeah, you can try.
I think that should go to Timothy as well, because this personal content thing, I mean, one day you're just a normal person doing your little videos, everyone wants to get into it. Then the next day, they're like, but this guy is making so much money from these videos. I was in one of his videos. Is there a need to sensitize people about personal content?
Yes. There is need to sensitize many of us of how we deal with our personal content. We must know what we are giving out, how we are giving it out, and for what purpose. Pablo, also to bring in also another thing that is on why these policies are best suitable. Why I mentioned to Julius that is the policy, access to the policy is better than the ticket, is that even gives you room to provide on how we deal with the consent, which may include withdrawal of your consent. Because you can say that, yes, I am agreeable, by the way, for this year's edition for you to use. Probably, let's say I come at this person rhymes, I'm agreeable here, I read everything, I'm agreeable. But next, probably on the next one, like those people who go public, let me just mention Nyege. And then there's someone who goes viral, probably Spider-Man or something, and then they are happy to use them at the next edition. But on the next or the forthcoming edition, they may say, by the way, last time use me, they made money. Now I'm withdrawing my consent. So the policy gives us even how we can withdraw the consent. And then we know, for example, it said that, okay, last year I was happy, but now for this year, I am no longer happy. And if you want to further deal with my image, first come to me and we talk that out. That means that if I created for you that route to withdraw your consent and you did not exercise that route, you cannot fault me for using your image once and again, as long as I don't exceed the retention period. Because now, for example, let's say the ad that we have, that probably Bosco that we've mentioned here, let's say it's now a hit, and now you're withdrawing your consent. Now, should I order the channels to shoot it down? It cannot. So we must have, that's why the policies help us a lot. It helps us play with the minimum retention period, and also gives us an avenue of how we can withdraw our consent. That probably today I'm not happy. I'm at office, but I'm not happy. Please don't record my video. So I'm withdrawing my consent. That is what we need to probably to add to cater for those conditions that have come up in this discussion.
I need to ask, first of all, no, before I even go to that, I want to first go back to Julius. Julius, you had a chance to, I think you constituted the team that handled the trip for Kanye and Kim K when they came to Uganda. I want to first understand, who do I need to kill to be in position to position myself to also get similar gigs, like which family do I have to marry into? That's one. Two, I want to understand the image protocols you deal with when you're dealing with like international images, figures like those. For purposes of advertisers and agencies that might get into a situation where they have to handle Beyonce coming to Uganda.
Okay, I think it comes down to fine print. So when we worked with Kanye West, for instance, you sign a lot of paperwork, non-disclosure and all that. Like, trust me, between myself and Ben, we even joke about it all the time, that the day that footage ever comes out, I think we won't be poor anymore. Because we have a lot of intimate moments with the guy, but we could not take pictures, we could not share, you can't say anything, but also because you have, there's so much you want to do with your career going forward. That's not a relationship you want to cross. So it's just respecting that. But these people are so tight on their images and guidelines. Like, for instance, when they touched down in Chobe, one of the waiters, I think waiting staff, took a back view picture of Kim Kardashian checking in. And that picture made rounds. So that's when TMZ was calling, like everyone was offering us money for, can you get us more pictures and all that. So what happened, to understand the gravity of disrespecting rights like those, Kanye fired the entire Jewish team on arrival. The entire security team. The security team was handled by a Jewish company. All of it was switched up because of that leak, one image. That's how important it is. Now, other scenarios where we've dealt with big figures, for instance, Neo. A couple of years when we did Neo with Beolaga, Pop and Jam. This is an NCP by a beer company, but then the person you bring to drive the NCP cannot be seen even holding a beer because he had, I think, some other, brand associations in his market that then would contradict what he was doing in Uganda. So then we are given instructions, Bell branding can't appear next to him, so we have to be clever about it and all that. But if you do not respect that, that's when a guy like that, you've already paid him $250,000, or whatever amount you paid him. And that's when he shows up and then you have a picture of him with a bottle and he refuses to perform. And then you forfeit all your money or stuff like that. The big stars will pull something like that. They'll tell you, I don't want to be next to this brand, or don't show this here, or don't have a branded person doing this. You must respect the fine print. You can get away with a lot locally, but when you start to play global and start to play with big stars, even Uncle Mo, when he's starting to be impossible to work with, at some point he's going to be like, guys, I don't need anyone smoking in a radius of 4 kilometers. We've worked with an artist who said, I do not need smoke in a radius of 300 meters of my backstage. And we've also had instances when once you break that, the guy is going to say, I'm not going stage, or you have to compensate me for something like that. So it's always in the fine print. So my advice to people doing, in our space of business, when it comes to dealing with big stars, please read the contracts. Like, you must read the contracts. Don't assume them, or else you risk the reputation of the brands that are trusting you, or even losing money. But read the fine print. Or get lawyers on board on your side so they can help you in that conversation.
And we have a lawyer on board, one Timothy. Don't leave your number. Don't leave your number. People will find you when they find you. But I think I'll give him the last question before we dive into questions. If you have a question, please just put it in the chat and I'll come to it. Timothy, FUFA is going to pay over 500 million because they got Crane's team images, and used them with whoever they wanted. What does this mean going forward? Because I think it's not only the cricket team. I think all other teams might have similar situations. What is this going to mean? That's one. Two, how, in your fewest words, how do agencies, brand advertising agencies, how are they going to protect themselves from this thing hitting them? By the way, they're the ones that get these things done. For example, where does their responsibility stop? For them, they just go and get the guy. Anyway, I want to understand, what does this mean, and how do agencies protect themselves from these things coming back and banning them?
Yes, thank you. What this means is that our markets are growing. So people can no longer be taken just for just. These things are opening up windows. And this is how economy, this is one of the indicators that we are proud of. These things are growing. People are getting this to light, that okay, these things are not a joking subject. So people are now alive to the fact that they are much more worth than they would have thought. They now know that in addition to probably having your career as a comedian, you can also build it vis-a-vis your brand, which is very, very different. If you're a sports person, if you're a sports lady, if you're a performer, an artist, now you understand that the work that you do from 9 to 7, blah, blah, swans, is very different from the brand that you build. And this is why we've had these people at the top of the richest people around, because they separate the Lionel Messi's and the Cristiano Ronaldo's. They separate their football on pitch from their image. They have even separate companies that are managing their image rights. So they have income way beyond their careers. So that's what's opening us up, and that's where we're heading to. And we can no longer sit back. And these things come up to show us that probably this is one of the things that we are in middle income status. People are waking up and people are getting specialized. And very soon, these branding companies, you see that them not only probably looking for a gig here and there, but also reaching out to the likes of Uncle Man, say that my Uncle Man, in addition to doing your comedy skits there, I want to run this brand of yours. And you'll see people, when you go to our trademark registry, people only register these company corporate trademarks, but we'll see an image of Uncle Mo as a trademark. When we just say cartoon, and you know that one is there. Even if you don't see their image, but you know that this brand, as you see that this brand CR7 is for Cristiano Ronaldo. We'll get to a time very soon when we look at this brand and not this brand. Even if I haven't seen the person, this is this. That's where we are going. So our economy is growing into that level. How do we safeguard ourselves against this, especially if you're in the advertisement space? The key, especially you may not only be there, but also may be someone who consumes these services often. But like we say, the practical bit is that the CEO of company X does not go to Uncle Mo and say that, Uncle Mo, give me your image. No, they send out these ads companies to go and do that. So what you must have, especially if you're not the last man standing, you're the last woman, just to be gender sensitive, is that you must have what they call an indemnity clause. Whoever you're getting this gig from, whoever you're getting, that's if you're an ads company or a marketing company, or if you're a company, whoever is going to give you that image to deal with, because you may not have the time to go and see every celebrity in the country, you must have a proper indemnity clause. What does this mean? It means that I said that I'm doing this gig for you. For example, this I'm a social media influencer. I'm going to influence this event for you. But if your poster has someone who you did not get proper consent for, or that person withdrew their consent for, and that person lodges a claim, I said the word claim, it's not in passing, it's not mere English. Because those indemnity clauses, you can be indemnified. Indemnified is just being paid back in case of something, an event arising. So you must say that in event of any claim against me, you must give me some money for me to have it and pay this person who is claiming. It's different from some clauses have the word loss or damage. So that means that if I send for you a notice of invitation to sue, that by the way, you've infringed my image because I didn't give you the consent and you've used it in a commercial. So please give me 500 million. I don't have to wait for the case to go on for 10 years when my things are locked up. I don't know what to do. I just say, Mzee, you told me that you had the right proper consent from this person who is now a brand, whose mark now is known. And now this person is saying that wasn't true. And the person has claimed, here's evidence of the claim. Please pay me. That I can get this very money and pay this person. And the matter is, well, because like Julius told us, you don't want to be engaged in years of battle here and there because someone did not do their job right. You don't want to do that. So you must have a proper indemnity clause in whatever gig that you take on. Especially if you're not the person you're not dealing with the person whose image is going to be used on that. Then the other one is that, please, if you agree that you're going to pay someone, please do pay up. As simple as that. And if you cannot do that, at least give them the amount that is reasonable in the circumstances. That they don't say that because someone like the example you just gave us, you did not pay enough, you did not pay what. So please pay up, at least sign up the amount that you can afford. Then the last one is that whichever, because this industry is hard that you work alone. You work with the guys probably who own the space where you advertise from. You work with media houses. You work with the celebrities. You work with these companies that give you the gig. Make sure that once you're onboarding those companies, those companies are being onboarded to you. At least I know the bargaining power may be low, but please. Insist, at least let them earn privacy laws. Because like in the, okay, it wasn't it, but it was the third party. So before you onboard it, or before you onboard, if a company that advertises, make sure that whoever you're onboarding is compliant with the minimum standards of data protection and privacy that are legislated on in Uganda. That way you safeguard yourself from paying those hefty unforeseen fines.
Thank you, and thank you very much. This is a point I would like to see if we have a few questions in the. Okay, I have. Let me see what we have in the chat. Well, Emmanuel Walker, ticket is zero. Hey, we talked about trust and rhyme in this thing, but now. Let me see. Alex Mukasa. Sebo first of all, Alex Mukasa, you're welcome. Thank you for being on this canvas. Thank you for being a part of this. So as we wait for, you can just raise your hand if you need to ask something. But as we wait for that, maybe I could ask Kanda. You're a production guy. On set, so many times you're there shooting. Of course, the client is around so that you avoid having too many reverts. Then the client is like, I like this extra. Let him take this role. Now the guy who signed that is going to be an extra is the main.
Yeah. I don't know where you've come for me today, but okay. So usually the reply is, it's even on the cup. Are you able to read it? As per my last email, there's even a slap there. So, we send a cast. You choose a cast, right? So, yes, understandably, not every time you're able to audition them. Because sometimes they'll be like, I want a brown person who looks like a gorilla. And you're like, oh, okay. You find the person. Now, the person who looks like a gorilla cannot act. But then the other tiny guy who looks like a goat can act. So after a while, when you reach set, then you're like, oh, okay. Maybe it's not all about the looks. I think I just need this guy to bring out the character. Then from there, like, okay, maybe we use this guy, we use that guy. Now, in those situations, sometimes you talk to the guy. Of course, now ego will get involved. But the guy who thinks is main, now is no longer main. And now you're like, eh. So they don't want you anymore. Of course, that's now sensitive. These are human beings. You can't say, man, you're a bad actor, what? You said in his CV, he wrote actor, he wants to go to the Oscars and what. So just explain that, okay, there's been a change of direction. This is where English comes in clutch. So you have to know English. You see, there's been a change of pace. There's been, I don't know, use lawyer words, or in short, we want this other guy now, but not you. Are you okay with that? Now, at that moment, you have to have somehow a contract around, even if it's, you can sign it digitally or something, just so that he accepts. Because in such situations, the mail can be like, hey, it's okay, I don't care. It's less work for me. You shoot. Then later I'll be like, I signed as a mail, this is the amount of money, and now from there, what are you going to do? You have no choice. So these things are conversations. You just go and tell the mail, you're like, you know what? Let's what do you call it? Let's pivot the direction of this ad, and what do you think? If the guy refuses, you have to tell the client, I have nothing to do. We signed a contract with this guy because he was chosen. He came ready. He came dressed as the clown, which you asked, a clown gorilla. Now he cannot be anything else. So of course, there's a costing department. We can change all that, but the man himself is, so the main guy is okay. You can compensate him if he accepts and he leaves, not even an extra. Now the extra to elevate remain. Sometimes he does not want to. Maybe he's a working guy, he works in a bank, he told the bank his auntie died. And now you're going to make him a maid. So now he's going to be acting, he's supposed to be away for I don't know how long, but you took him now to Moroto. Now he has to be there for like 3 days. And yet you are given like 2 days. So it's a whole situation that you need to negotiate with people. But happens on ground. There's really, your hands cannot be tied. I know sometimes a client will be, people raise their voices when they're not sure if they're right or wrong, just to push a point. But you have to stand your ground and be like, this is what we agreed, and the parties have refused. You cannot force someone to act. So that's the best we can do in that situation.
First of all, in the chat, someone says you should sell the cup. I think before this ends, auction. Alex Mukasa, unmute your mic.
Thank you, Moses, and thank you, team, really for putting this together. Very interesting. When I saw, this conversation come up, I reached out to Moses and I asked him for the link. And indeed, it's an interesting conversation. Now, before we proceed, I want to put a disclaimer. 1, I work in the field of insurance. 2, I am not selling insurance. And 3, please don't contact me to ask me about insurance. So my question now will go. I have had, the submissions from the different people, and clearly there's a disconnect, whether it is from an information gap or it is what I think experience. And like Julius has rightly put it, Swangs has been around for a while. So over time, he has learned from experience that, to get to, how sophisticated they are today. And probably it's learnings from everybody else who's not as experienced. My question, especially going to one, the lawyer, and then to Julius also, who's a practitioner. What steps have been taken? Because, ultimately, everything you talk about, will relate to liability in some shape or form, that ultimately each of us or each of you in the entertainment industry, in the advertising industry, you create there exists some risk of liability, especially in your, day-to-day. So my question, goes to the lawyer because he knows the law, and also to Julius because he's a practitioner. How have you, from a legal end and then from the practice end, prepared for these liabilities that may come up? I'd really like to hear the lawyer from a legal end and then Julius from a practitioner's end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. I think we shall start with Timothy.
Yes, to safeguard yourself from the legal end, 2 main things. 1, like you said, have the indemnity clause in whatever contract that you're dealing with. We've gone into detail of what that means. The other one that we had to share about is, like we said, compliance is at the minimum level. So for you to comply with the minimum level, there's an office here called Personal Data Protection Office, PDPO. Once you register with it, it will request of you to furnish it with an ICT policy and data protection and privacy policy. That means that they're going to subject your policy to some minimal standards. And once they pass your policy and they register you in their office, it means that minimally you're data compliant. And all that you have to do after that is comply with your policy that you already have. And that policy has all the benchmarks. Probably you need to get in touch with a lawyer like me to help you design that policy. But far from, or not so far from the policy, is that it will have something that we call the trainings. Because you may be the ads company, but you may be the CEO, but you may not be fully on ground. You may not be on every cast, you may not be on every event. So you want to train your people, just minimally train them of these things that they are aware. People who do the actual photographs, people who do our designing, who do our marketing. If you have already on-ground social media influencers, also alert them. So if you do that on the legal end, you have your indemnity clause, you have the policies, you're registered with the PDPO, and you do your trainings. You're good to go from the legal end.
Thank you very much. Of course, the legal end has more of preparing English to deal with liability. So hearing from Julius, is there also a bag of money just in case? Just in case.
So because we're a small company, we don't have a bag of money waiting to compensate people. And I know the gentleman who asked is also trying to tell us indirectly, if you read through the lines, that by the way, guys, you need to consider insurance. I could read that in his question. And I'm open for that conversation. The gentleman asked the question. However, what have we done in the interim to manage these risks? So two things. One, we try to be as compliant as possible through trainings as well. So I might know a thing or two because I've been in the business longer. Some of my colleagues have been in the business longer, but as the business evolves and grows, you have new people coming on board. So we constantly train and educate people about the things to watch out for. Like you find the times when we had issues around image rights in the past and events, the people that were there now are the ones policing internally when they're putting out comms. Before we put out comms for, say, one of our events, and they would not be terms and conditions. Now it's rare that you see a piece of communication from Swangs that doesn't have a terms and condition. So we've learned, and we keep training our people, but also to rely heavily on professionals, because we can't know everything. We don't everything. So we've kept a legal entity on retainer. They're always checking out most of the stuff that we put out that are data related or image related or things that are going into the public domain. So they're always checking, and they're policing everything we do, basically. So sometimes we put out stuff maybe they haven't seen. They will call us out like, hey guys, you put this out, but there's a problem. There's a risk on this, put it down. So it's constantly educating ourselves. That's what we do, and also relying on professionals.
By the way, if someone says put it down, does it mean that now the case is away? That's one. Two, someone in the chat, Martha, says, okay, yes, then I sign over my image. But how do you control what you called it? Interesting language. Bedbug media houses. The guys are just creeping, working for some random tabloids and start taking these images and stuff. So how do you control that? Are we signing over our privacy to those people? And also, Alex, you totally sold insurance. I should have muted your mic, but anyway, let's go
on. So I'm assuming that's me, yeah, right? So like we discussed this, I don't know if it wasn't very clear. We do not transfer ownership of these rights. We don't even give them to media houses. So if there's any issues that are raised from that, or if a media house picks it up and misuses it, that will be on them. I don't think that will be on us. Timothy can advise. For as long as we do not authorize it. And we put this on a lot of even content that we produce, even video content, or from events or whatever it is. You cannot, like for instance, if you watch the Tusker Mouth Conversations, and I'm not advertising it here, I'm just saying, if you watch it, it's a digital property produced by, we licensed NBS to run it I think one run, they can't even do every run. But then, fun enough, we've had times when someone tells you, oh, I saw conversations on BBS. So these guys go on like YouTube and download it and all that. So imagine you see yourself, you are part of the audience, and we told you would use this, promote it, and then now you're on BBS, you're everywhere else. So these guys have used it without authorization, for starters. So Timothy, I don't know, if you are the person who didn't give BBS your rights, would you go after BBS? Would you go after Swans? Because even us, we didn't give them the rights. Would we then send you to the person who's abused or used your image? On our end, we try to be responsible and not extend the use if it's unauthorized, but we still see people abuse that and pick it up and use it for the other things. Timothy, for me, I will seek guidance. How would you go about that?
Yes. Now, when I mentioned about when you register with the PDPO, one of the points that I mentioned was the ICT policy. And there you'll have a clause on your security. So in these kinds of, because now that it's not primary, it's secondary infringement. If someone is alleging secondary infringement, all that you need to disclose is that you had ample security safeguards, safeguard that person's data. That is all. Okay. You have to demonstrate that. And once you demonstrate that, of course, practically they're going to come for both of you because the person who's suing doesn't want to keep guessing. So they'll sue, but your defense will be that I had proper data security safeguards and I practiced them. And this is my policy that has been approved by the PDPO. So at least on my end, I'm good. Then that's when we'll go to the other person as the primary infringer, and you get off the hook as a secondary infringer if your data security measures are good. What that means is that if, for example, you take these photos and you just leave after probably your photographer is also good at taking some John Walker, and person just falls out, and then their camera is there all open, and then someone probably takes that material from them in that way, in that the leakage was due to data security questions in how you handle this data, then you're liable for that breach. But if everything is good, someone just did probably an outright steal, that is even a copyright infringement on your own. You probably download regularly YouTube video, or even you take it where you can even capture the video off the screen and everything. There is them. You just want to say that I did all that I have to do on my end. Take it up on those guys who infringed on that by themselves.
And thank you very much, because I think I know of a certain TV station, they were out of things to program, something, they ended up throwing an ad that was already, of course, now outside the contract just to fill the space. Now there's problems. Anyway, we don't have time right now, and I would love to wrap this. I would like to invite, thank you very much, the panel. You've been amazing, but we can't hear people clapping. You've been amazing hearing from all of you. We've missed having Noella from Airtel. She was supposed to be a part of this, but hopefully next time. Now, in this moment, I would like to invite the chairman, Uganda Advertising Association, Frank, to come and, call this home.
Me, I'm clapping. That was an amazing conversation. I just liked the flow. So Uncle Mo for moderating this canvas. Thank you very much. Skanda Didi, that camp you guy. Yeah? Thank you very much. Timothy Kasaija. Kasaija is Timothy Kaija. Thank you very much.
It's Kaija, but no offense.
Kaija, not Kasaija. Thank you very much, Julius Chaze. Amazing. I think, man, we've managed to sustain a conversation, and we've kept 48 people, from the very beginning up until now, just listening. That's how engaging this topic was. On the side, I was chatting with Noella. Those things of like, I've confirmed, I've booked. Then last minute, your boss tells you, I have a meeting with so-and-so, and you have to tag along, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that was a situation with Noella. So she sends her apologies. We'll make sure that she comes for, we'll see which other canvas she can be able to join. I'd like to thank all the people who managed to come for this canvas. I hope you've been able to learn a thing or two. We can continue the conversation on our social media handles. Feel free to, tag you right to, Julia, Skyja, Kanda. Let's continue the conversation on our socials. With those few remarks, thank you very much. I think this has been one educative canvas, one educative webinar. I wish everybody